Hello, friends, and welcome back to Sesh Cast. My name is Goldilocks. This is Sesh Cast, a cannabis podcast for cannabis sessions. And today we're going to talk about all the things that I like. But first, I want to talk about these things that I'm smoking, also things that I like, and about today's situation a little bit. So, like I said, this is Sesh Cast, and my name is Goldilocks. Thanks for hanging out. I really appreciate it. This is just this little podcast that I do where I sit down and get high and I talk about stuff for a little while. So, if you need something to listen to while you're smoking alone, or you're just looking for something to hang out and listen to somebody really just ramble for a little while, I'm your guy. So thanks. I do appreciate it. I am currently in sort of a new setup for anybody who has been listening to me for a while. Recording in my room for the second week in a row, but with a little bit of a different table setup, still a little jank. Currently, my mic is on a shelf that is pulled very close to me, but like I'm at more at mic level than I've ever been recording this show. So I'm really interested to see how it ends up sounding and how it ends up feeling. But I actually feel a little bit more like I'm talking to a microphone, which is good because that's what I'm used to talking to. So that's kind of nice. We'll see how that sounds. And I am using today my Monster Glass spoon. So the first spoon that I ever smoked out of for the show. It's the first picture on my Instagram. There'll probably be a picture of it up this week. It just may not be like the main focus of the picture, but I don't know. I haven't decided yet. So I'm also recording with my window open for the first time. Now, my mic has been really good about cutting out background audio, and I have a good noise reduction filter, so we'll see how it ends up sounding. I'm sorry if there's a lot of background noise. I'm just trying things out, and I'm giving things a shot for a little while. So, today, that is the pipe that I'm using. That's where I'm recording. What other logistics are there? Smoking. I am smoking on Jack Herrera, which I'm so happy to have. I tried Candy Jack for the first time a couple weeks ago. I don't remember which episode that was, but it was just something that I borrowed from a buddy. Not borrowed, I took from a buddy. We like traded strains because we bought two different things. Like you go to the store with a buddy and you come home with like one buddy has an ounce of this, one buddy has an ounce of that, so you trade a nug each way, something like that. Basically what we did. So I had some Candy Jack for the first time a couple weeks ago and really, really loved it. And I'm usually a hardcore indica guy, but I've been hunting down some sativas lately. It's just kind of the kick that I've been on. I've been looking for more of the like uplifting, happy, kind of racy is the wrong word, but just like a quick high, as opposed to like what I typically hunt, which are just the like stop, drop, and smoke indica, like the hard hitters straight to the face things. So I've been wanting to try Jack Herrera for a long time because it's one of those legendary strains, but I never got my hands on it, just never made its way out here. So happy to finally have a good cut of Jack Herrera. Have really enjoyed it. It's got a super traditional flavor. It's very earthy. Gosh, excuse me, that might have been gross. I ate a lot of food before I sat down to record this. That burp might get cut out if we're being completely honest, TBD. So I'm smoking on Jack Herrera, which is very earthy. Has kind of a piney kick to it. Just a very traditional tasting weed, not a lot of extra flavor to it. So yeah, that's the story there. This episode was going to be an interview with one of my internet friends, Tweedledoob. That is going to come out next week. So I'll talk a little bit more about the details here in a moment or two, but I'm going to go ahead and hit this first. So I hope that your day is going well. The weather here is beautiful and gorgeous. And I have a very long list of things to do, but recording this episode is like the first thing that I have to check off it. So I'm hoping that once I check one thing off, things are just going to start to take away on that to-do list, and I'm going to feel pretty good. So I hope that you are in a similar situation, that things are great for you, and if they are not great, I hope that they get better soon. And I hope that you are positive to all of those around you and all of those nice and happy things. Smoke something with me, friends. Cheers. this, in a sense, has the taste of the flavor of rose. Um, I which I like. I can think of specifically because I've had rose hookah, and I have also had or like been to a flower store and smelled roses very deeply, like to where you feel it in your mouth. But it's kind of a like dry soil flavor. Um, I don't know. It's kind of hard to describe, but it's a little rosy as well. Um, the Jack Herrera, that is. So, first, to talk about the interview with Tweedledoob, because I think a few people might be here for that. So, if you missed it, on my Instagram this week, like this week as of recording, first week of June, I sat down for a Google Hangout sesh with Tweedledoob, who is a cannabis photographer and activist and influencer out of the Toronto area. You can check her out on Instagram at Tweedledoob, like TweedledooB. I don't know how clear that spelling is from the word itself, but she's great, super nice, super friendly. We just connected through Instagram and had a really, really awesome interview. Now, the audio quality, because of some weak sauce technology and maybe a bad Wi-Fi connection, I'm still trying to figure out exactly what the problem was, is not the strongest. Now, not a huge deal. If any of you have been listening to this show for a while, you may remember that there is one interview where I lost all the audio, so we're not in that situation. There will definitely still be a cut of this interview posted as an episode, and that will be out next Thursday from when this is released. So that will be out on this will come out on the 7th, so it'll be out on the 14th of June. So that look forward to. Like I said, the audio is not great. Something will come out. It just like I need to clean it up a little bit and see how much of it is really salvageable. And I have a buddy working on it as well to clean that up a little bit. So that is coming your way very soon. And Tweedledoo was sweet and nice enough to say that if that one doesn't work out, or hopefully just at some point with better technology and a better situation, we'll do another interview. So, but we talked a lot about philosophy and being a cannabis influencer and what it's like in Canada, the legal versus illegal scene in Canada right now. And yeah, it was a really awesome interview. So that'll come out next Thursday. Enough rambling about that. A little bit of shameless self-promotion there. So this week we are going to talk about sentimental and sentimental value. I like we better. We're going to talk about sentimental value. Because today I got some really bad news about my car, and it's got me really hardcore bumming. And I want to talk about this because I'm curious to see if other people feel this way. Because sentimental value is weird. Like some people have or place huge value on sentiment, and sentimental value is just like something that hits people in a really heavy way or means a lot to them. I am one of those people. Like when I am sentimental about something, I am very, very sentimental of it. I have cried over throwing away more than one like inanimate object in my lifetime because of how attached to things I get. And I'll talk about that a little bit later as well. But I really realized that it's not that way for other people. There's a ton of people who doesn't matter, no sentimental value to much of anything. And I'm curious about like where I sit on that scale and where the majority lies on that scale. Like, are more people tied to sentiment? Are more people not tied to sentiment in the sense that things don't carry value outside of their monetary or usefulness? Or monetary was a weird word. I'm gonna amend that to price. But yeah, like I don't know. I'm curious to see where most people lie, because I in my life have always been somebody who just gets very bonded to things. And it's like, I, I don't know exactly how to explain this. It's something I've thought about myself a lot, but have never really tried to explain. So here we go. Actually, I'm going to take another hit of this real quick, and I'm going to try and explain this thing about myself that I've never really put into words before. So, cheers. Okay, so I don't. Oh gosh. um. So I get really attached to things. I'm not 100% sure why, but I think that some of it might have to do with wanting to hold on to happy memories, and really tying memories and events to inanimate objects that were involved in those events. Did that make sense? I don't know. I hope that that made a little bit of sense. Basically, that like, if I have a shirt that I was wearing when something good happened, I will often hang on to that shirt because, yeah, I never wear it anymore, but it's what I was wearing when, and keep it for that reason as like a reminder or a souvenir. I don't know. Maybe that's a thing. Maybe I treat inanimate objects as souvenirs to times and events in my life that I that just to times and events in my life, period, that should have ended with a downward inflection instead of an upward inflection. Um, so maybe that's part of it. There is part of me that puts a weird personification on things, and I think that that might stem from um, that same place of wanting to preserve memories, and so personifying those memories in a way by thinking that inanimate things, inanimate objects have some sort of like karmatic emotional being. Um, that might have been a little weird. I don't mean that to be super weird. I don't talk to plants or anything like that. Plants was a bad example. Plants are living things, and some people do talk to plants. I don't talk to DVD players or anything like that. That would be a little bit more than where I am coming from right now. I just get really attached to things, and often feel as though I think that it is really tied to some sort of karmatic belief, because I do have a relatively, or I have a belief system that's relatively based in at least the Americanized version of karma, or actually, let me change that to the Western version of karma, because there is a pretty big difference between. Oh gosh, excuse me. The um the basic American version, what we refer to as karma, and the actual Buddhist philosophy of karma. There's a difference there. But I have this belief system based. Oh my gosh, I feel awful. I'm sorry, I'm coughing and burping all over my own podcast, and I just don't feel good. I ate a gross amount of food, so I'm real sorry if this sounds gross. This might be heavily edited, and I hope that it isn't, but cross that bridge when we get to it, friends. Um, I have this belief system based in do good things to anything. Do good things, and good things will happen to you. Um, I have a pretty strong belief in that. That might be an episode worth talking about. Maybe I'll do karma in an episode. That would be kind of fun. That'd be really fun. I'll do that at some point. I'll do a karma episode. But yeah, there. Do good things to things, and things will do good things to you. Not that like I expect my I don't know, my toaster to make my breakfast better if I'm good at cleaning the dishes or anything like that. I don't know if that example was necessary, but I gave it. No, like I treat my car specifically like it is another person, like it's a friend of mine, and some other things. But my car is definitely a big one because I spend so much time in and with my car, and I have for so long. So I'm still driving the first car that I ever had. And I had that car because it was my dad's car. And I think that we bought it new when we first bought it. We might have bought it very lightly used. But I think we bought it new in 2001. So it's an '01 Camry. So my car is 17 years old. It's got like 270,000 miles on it. And I've been driving that car for a long, long time. So I've been driving it since I was 16, 9 years now, which, isn't that long in your adult life, I suppose. But when you're only 25, 9 is a healthy chunk of your life. It's more than a third of my life that I've been driving that car. And that's not only driving, like, car is 17 years old. So it has been part of my life now for much more than half of my life. And I got the news today, like I mentioned earlier, that I'm not going to be able to fix my car. It's going to be drivable for a while, but for anybody who knows anything about cars, my subframe is rotting out. So I have an oil line leak, and my subframe is rusty to the point of no return. I have now had 2 mechanics, one who I don't trust and one that I trust very much, tell me you could be going 70 miles an hour and hit a pothole, and the bottom of your car would just fall out from underneath you. And that's a bummer. But they also both told me it is 110% not worth my money to fix this car anymore. Now I've been fixing my car in ways that are not worth my money for 5 years. Because I drove it like an idiot when I was a kid. Like, I, ran it all around. My jaw got heavy. I ran it all over the place. I, basically drove it off-road. There's an '01 Camry that we're talking about, and I 110% drove that out into yards and woods and all sorts of crazy things. I put that car through the ringer, and I used to go drifting in it in the snow and all this stuff. So I'm sure that it would have 10 more years in it if I treated it well 5 years ago. But when I moved out to college and that car became like my only true sense of home, I treated it a lot better, and I drove it a lot better and a lot safer. And I just took better care of it, but you just can't undo so many years of damage. And I have been going to the same mechanics for a while. That was right outside of my college town. And I go to another mechanic here now who I have also been going to for a while. And my first mechanic told me many times, like, you could get a new car and save money for how often you're going to fix this. And I've had the mechanic here say, I really don't know that you want me to fix this, but I will. And today was the first time that, like, a mechanic who I basically, like, I feel like as a friend, we're on a first name basis, called me and said, dude, it's not, like, I'm not doing it. You can't do it. It's just not worth it. So that was a bit of a bummer, and it kind of rocked me. And I think that's why I'm talking about this today, because it's just been on the front of my mind a lot, because I'm not nearly as sentimentally attached to things as I was when I was a kid. When I was a kid, I would get weirdly obsessive with things. I use that. Actually, hold on. I'm gonna take a hit of this, and then I'll come back and talk about this more. So, yeah, another hit. Cheers, friends. Yeah, this straight up, oh gosh, straight up tastes like a flower shop. Like you walk into a flower shop with your mouth open. It's this weed. Um, that also could be the candle I have burning in here. I just realized that I have a candle burning in here. I did light that. That might be what I'm tasting. Anyway, so, when I was a little kid, I don't remember how old I was. I was very young. I would say pre-kindergarten, but I'm not sure. I cried because my parents threw away. Well, they didn't throw away. I didn't let them throw it away. I made them keep it in the house, in the garage. In fact, an old VCR. Not proud. Hashtag not proud. I just was really obsessed with this VCR. Not because it had really any sort of, like, I don't know, real value to me. It had been the VCR we had always used. It was the VCR, and I was really attached to it because I used it all the time. I used to watch a lot of movies, so I don't know. That's a little weird. I don't really know like why I was that obsessed with a VCR, but I was. And I have just always had that weird sentimental attachment, and I've never really treated it as a bad thing, or never really thought of it as a bad thing. But I will say that it has made me make some like foolish decisions in my life. Kind of where I'm at with the car right now, where I don't really like, I don't want to get a new car. I don't want to, start over with a new car, but I also don't want to pay a couple $1,000s to repair the bottom of a car that is honestly worth less than $1,000. Like, that's just not awesome. And so I've kind of hit this point where I'm stuck. Where does my logic finally start to outweigh my heart in the sense of sentiment? And I think that sentence I just said is really interesting, and now I kind of want to talk about that for a little while, if I can remember what I said. That, like, my logic, yeah, okay, so my logic outweighing heart. And I think that's, let me say that one more time. Okay, here we go. So, I think I'm hitting the point where logic is prevailing over emotion in my decision-making process with my car specifically. And that's interesting because I am someone who is almost always a very logical decision maker. Like, I let logic dictate my decisions much more than I let my emotions dictate my decisions, unless it's something with a heavy sentimental value, like my car. But I think that's interesting because I think that is a reason that people sometimes struggle to change their belief systems, because I think people get sentimental about their beliefs and about things they've been taught their whole lives. And I think that there's this weird connection here that I may have stumbled upon between, like, maybe somebody thinks the way they think, maybe somebody feels the way they feel because that's the way they've always thought and felt, and that's the way that feels comfortable for them to feel, and that's the, like, sentimental value of their thought process, or the sentimental value of their belief or their belief system. I think that's really similar to, I've been driving this car for 9 years, like 9 years, almost 10 years. I've been driving this car for almost a decade, and like, I've lived in this car. I've spent many nights and many days in this car. The car has seen a lot of things. Like, it's been a part of my life. I've moved across states in that car a couple of times, and it's been kind of a home to me. And so I think that I have all of these memories and all of these comforts and all of these, like, emotional connections with my car the same way that people often create emotional connections with their belief systems, perhaps because it's what they grew up believing. It's what somebody always told them. It's what their grandparents used to say, or their mom or dad used to say. It's ingrained in somebody. And I think that one of the hardest things to change when you're trying to change somebody's mind about things is severing their sentimental connection to their belief system. I don't necessarily want to specify belief system because I don't want this to sound like I'm talking about one specific thing, because I'm really not. But like an example would be, if somebody, so I'm gonna take a very like cheesy cop out example, apply it however you so choose. But like if you grew up your whole life believing that it was illegal to drive with the lights on in your car at night. It isn't. I don't know that it's illegal anywhere. It may be illegal in like some small town somewhere or something, but federally, to my knowledge, it's perfectly legal to drive with the lights on in your car. But this sort of belief system lie thing has been perpetuated for so long, and so many people have these sentimental connections to that belief system. We're like, well, when I was first learning to drive, my mom always told me it was illegal to drive with the lights in the car on, or my grandma always used to say that, or I have some memory of somebody saying that when I was first learning how to drive, and it's stuck with me ever since. So I don't really want to believe you that it's not illegal. I want to know that by not doing it for so long, I have been doing the right thing, because that's what I've always been told. And so when you're trying to convince someone that it is in fact legal to drive with the lights in your car on, it's really difficult, because not only do you have to prove it to them logically, you have to make your logic outweigh their emotion. And that, I think, is something that people don't understand about communication and compromising. And I really need more weed, so I'm going to smoke more weed, and I'm going to talk about that a little bit. Cheers. All right, here we go. So we're going to connect all this back. This is where it's going to get weird, I think. So, it is 2018. I live in America. Everyone is fighting everyone. Not yet in the war type of fighting and the actual type of fighting, although them arguments could be made. But the number of people who agree with people is strikingly less than the number of people who disagree with people. It's just a lot of fighting and argument and confusion around here right now. And I think that a lot of people are trying to convince other people to change their minds about things. And can you tell I'm trying not to take sides? Try not to take sides. People are trying to make other people change their mind about the way they think and feel about things. And folks are getting upset because through all of this time and effort and energy that's being put in, people aren't changing their minds. And that's confusing the people who are trying to change minds. And I think the reason that people's minds aren't changing is because there's been nothing so far to sever the sentimental value of their former belief system. There has been nothing in the logic to outweigh the emotion to make them change their mind. And once they have that piece, often a new emotional piece to give them sentimental value to the new piece of mind, or the new way of thinking, there's no switch but once they have, I don't remember how that sentence started. Once they have an emotional connection to the new thought process, people tend to change their minds at least a little more quickly, if not always. Um, and I am gonna like take a stand and give an example of this. So one thing I see on Twitter a lot is um, people. It always starts like it starts at A, and then it moves to B. Um, and I see a lot of B. I don't see too much A on on Twitter, but I'm gonna explain A first, and then tell you what B is that I see a lot of. So A equals um, some guy somewhere saying, typically on Twitter, something along the lines of, like, I have a daughter now and realize now that I have a daughter that women need rights and all of their things. That's it's just a really general way to put it. I don't have a tweet in front of me to read. I'm sorry, but I think you get what I mean. Like somebody saying like, yes, women matter to me now because I have a daughter, and now I know, like, I see how women should be treated. Um, so that is A. What I see a lot of on Twitter is B. B is a quote tweet of said statement with something along the lines of, like, if, like, this is bad because he shouldn't have needed a daughter to change his mind, or he shouldn't have needed a daughter to respect women. He should have respected women, daughter or no daughter. Or, you know, if your man doesn't respect women before he has a daughter, don't give him a daughter, or something along those lines. I think that I'm getting that across. So it's like I see very little of A. I see a lot of B. B is what upsets me and what I am taking issue with here. A is the perfect example of a belief system that is ingrained through sentimental value, changed with a new emotional connection to a new thought process or to a new belief system. Guy has always thought that women are less than men. That guy, this particular guy X, as an example. Guy X had a daughter and now is emotionally connected with women's rights. And people I see, the people who tweet B, I see getting upset with Guy X, even though he's on their side now. And that is something that I want to point out, because if you are in an argumentative state, if you are trying to change someone's mind, if you are trying to change someone's opinion, the best way to change their opinion is to give them an emotional connection to the new opinion. Now that might not work with everybody. Maybe saying that that's the best way is overreaching. However, an important part of changing someone's mind is giving them an emotional or sentimental connection to your new way of thinking, giving them a reason, an ethos, if you will, to start to think that way, or to change their belief system. And so why that whole tweet situation is upsetting and confusing for me is because Guy X, who tweets A, is someone who has now changed his opinion and is now trying to be better and trying to do better. And people are getting upset with Guy A because of his old belief system, when in fact he now has a sentimental attachment to the new belief system. Now, getting upset with him diminishes the sentimental value of the new belief system, because now not only does he have the positive emotional connection of his daughter to women's rights, but he has the negative emotional connection to this thought process of women's rights, because someone quote tweeted him saying that this was bad. He is trying to do the right thing and is being looked down on for not doing the right enough thing. And that is something that I see a lot of right now. Not specifically in that example. I see that a lot of places with a lot of different belief systems. That was just the one, like, that's the one I've seen a lot of the most recently that I thought I could make a really good example of. So there's that. But um, just this whole idea of, okay, let me start that over. The two takeaways, the 2 points here, I think, are the whole idea that if you are trying to change someone's mind, tap into the sentimental value of the belief system, is like point one. And then point two is, um, just because it took a new sentimental value, or just because it took finding a sentimental value in a new belief system, doesn't mean that you should shortchange that person for adopting a new sentimental belief system. Those are the two takeaways, I think, from the rant that I just went on. I'm really interested to listen to that back and see if that made sense, because that was a ride. But I'm gonna hit this again, and then I'm gonna talk a little more about sentiment. Cheers. So, yeah, sentimental value. I think a lot of people value sentimental value the way that I do, where there is an inanimate object and you get very attached to it for one emotional reason or another. And I level with you people. I'm right there. Um, if that's not you, if you are not sentimentally attached to things, materials, that's fine. I understand. Like, not everybody is. And I'm curious if there's more one way or the other. I would bet to wager it's 50-50. Half the people are real sentimental, half the people aren't real sentimental. Because I think it's kind of a sliding scale thing as to where you sit. So everybody would sit on one side or the other, technically. So there's that. And then I think, however, that everyone is sentimental to their belief systems. I think that everyone has some emotional connection to the way that they think or the way that they feel and the reasons that they feel and think the way they do. Everybody has that, I think. And so if you're disagreeing with someone or you're trying to change the mind of someone, make sure that you are tapping in not only to logic but to emotion, because you may be someone who is incredibly logical and great at connecting all of the dots, but to really change someone's mind, you're going to need to appeal to them emotionally. And that goes the other way too. You may be someone who's great at giving people an emotional connection to things, but some people might just need logic and might just need a solid explanation, because they don't care about your stories. They just need the hard numbers. Like, that goes both ways. And a lot of these fights and arguments I'm seeing on Twitter and on TV and in the real world and in the news and everywhere right now, it's like everybody's only fighting for one side or the other. Everybody either wants to say, "Oh, I dropped my lighter." I hope everybody doesn't want to say that, but everybody either wants to say, like, look at these people, hear these stories. This is the emotion that you should need to change your mind. And then everybody else just wants to say, your emotions mean nothing because look at the numbers and look at what's true and yada, yada, yada. That's two sides of an argument in 2018 America. And I think that if all of us can acknowledge that both of those things exist, I think we'll come to a lot more conclusions together as opposed to conclusions apart. That is my thought, and that is all I have to say about that. I'm going to hit this one more time, and then I'll do the outro-y things. Cheers. All right, well, I think that's going to about bring us to the end of this interesting little episode. This went some places. I'm kind of happy with the way that this all turned out, so I hope you enjoyed this. My name is Goldilocks. This is Sesh Cast. This is a cannabis podcast for cannabis sessions. I release these episodes once a week. They come out every Thursday. This one is out this Thursday. Duh. Next Thursday, June the 14th. Yes, I said that right. June the 14th will be a special episode that is my interview with Tweedledoob, which was really, really great. So that's coming out next week. And then the week after that will be a mornings episode. It'll be my second in the morning series, and it will be a wake and bake, my first time smoking weed in a week, because I'm going dry to go volunteer to summer camp here in the next 10 days. So I'll be out for a little while, and I'll post updates as soon as I have them. So I guess I'm trying to remind myself to do this. The internet has told me that I'm supposed to remind people to review my podcast on iTunes. So if you like this podcast and you feel like doing that, go for it. If not, no hard feelings. Thanks for listening anyway. Have a good day, everybody. Cheers. My name is Goldilocks. This has been Sesh Cast. Thank you so much. Oh, man. Oh. I should have waited. I should have taken a drink.